The crystalline throne room of the Zephyrian Empire sparkled like 1,000 stars under the morning light of 3 suns. Captain Alex Reed stood at attention in the center of the vast hall, his battle-worn uniform a stark contrast to the flowing robes and shimmering skin of the alien beings surrounding him. The war was over. After 6 months of brutal fighting against the Void Swarm, the galaxy was finally safe. Emperor Thane of the Zephyrian Empire rose from his throne, a magnificent seat carved from a single piece of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. His tall, graceful form towered over even the tallest humans, and his bioluminescent markings glowed with the intensity of his emotions. Gratitude, relief, and deep respect flowed through the patterns on his skin like rivers of light. "Captain Reed," the Emperor's voice resonated through the chamber like music. "You have saved not only our empire but every living soul in this galaxy. The Void Swarm would have consumed everything if not for your courage and the bravery of your human forces." Alex remained silent, his hands clasped behind his back. Around the throne room, hundreds of Zephyrian nobles and military officers watched the ceremony. Representatives from 12 different alien species had come to witness this moment. The human fleet had not fought alone, but everyone knew that without human tactics and determination, the alliance would have failed. "The ancient laws of our people demand that we honor such service," Emperor Thane continued. "Name your reward, Captain Reed. Anything within our power to give shall be yours. Our finest weapons, our most advanced ships, our greatest treasures. You need only speak, and it shall be done." The Emperor gestured toward a series of floating platforms that held artifacts and technologies beyond imagination. Weapons that could destroy entire planets, shields that could protect whole star systems, and scientific devices that could reshape matter itself. Each item represented centuries of Zephyrian advancement, but Alex's attention was not on the treasures. His eyes moved past the glittering displays to 7 figures standing in alcoves along the wall, the Emperor's daughters, the princesses of the Zephyrian Empire, each one a marvel in her own right. Princess Vela stood in the first alcove, her uniform decorated with the symbols of the Imperial fleet. During the war, she had commanded 300 ships in perfect coordination, her tactical mind working faster than any computer. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed with confident blue and gold patterns. She was known throughout the galaxy as the finest naval commander of her generation. In the second alcove stood Princess Nora, her eyes closed in concentration. Even now, Alex could feel the gentle touch of her telepathic abilities as she maintained mental contact with Zephyrian colonies across 50 worlds. Her gift allowed her to coordinate planetary defenses and communicate across vast distances instantly. The silver patterns on her skin showed the depth of her mental powers. Princess Kira occupied the third alcove, surrounded by floating holographic displays showing her latest scientific breakthroughs. She had developed the energy shields that protected the human ships during their final assault on the Void Swarm mothership. Her green and purple markings indicated a mind that could comprehend technologies that human scientists would need decades to understand. Each of the other princesses displayed equally impressive abilities. Princess Mira could manipulate gravity itself, creating weapons and defenses that defied physics. Princess Jana's connection to living creatures allowed her to communicate with any species and heal wounds that should have been fatal. Princess Leia possessed the ability to phase through solid matter, making her the perfect spy and infiltrator. And then there was Princess Zara. She stood in the 7th alcove, separate from her sisters, and Alex noticed immediately how different she appeared. Where her sisters glowed with bright, confident patterns, Zara's bioluminescent markings were dim and barely visible. Her posture seemed uncertain, and she avoided making eye contact with anyone in the room. The other princesses whispered among themselves, their voices just loud enough for Alex to hear their words through his universal translator. "Surely he will choose Vela," Princess Nora said quietly. "The humans value military strength above all else." "Or perhaps Kira," Princess Mira added. "Their technology is still primitive compared to ours. Scientific knowledge would benefit them greatly." Princess Jana glanced toward Zara and shook her head sadly. "At least we know he will not make the mistake of choosing our youngest sister." What could she possibly offer to such accomplished warriors? Alex watched Zara's reaction to her sister's words. The dim patterns on her skin flickered even weaker, and she seemed to shrink further into the shadows of her alcove. It was clear that she had heard similar comments many times before. Emperor Thane followed Alex's gaze and noticed his attention on the princesses. A knowing smile crossed the ruler's face. "Ah, I see you appreciate the true treasures of our empire," the emperor said with pride. "My daughters represent the finest qualities of our people. Perhaps you would consider one of them as a cultural ambassador to your species? Such an alliance would benefit both our peoples for generations to come." The suggestion caused a stir throughout the throne room. The idea of a human choosing a Zephyrian princess as a reward was unprecedented, but it would create the strongest possible bond between their civilizations. Princess Vela stepped forward first, her military bearing commanding attention. "Captain Reed, I would be honored to serve as liaison between our fleets. Together, we could create defensive strategies that would protect both human and Zephyrian worlds from any future threats." Princess Nora opened her eyes and fixed them on Alex. "My telepathic abilities could help your people communicate across the vast distances of space. No human colony would ever be isolated again." One by one, each princess presented her case, explaining how her unique abilities could help humanity grow and prosper in the galaxy. Their offers were generous and their powers genuinely impressive. Any one of them would have been a tremendous asset to the human space program. The court waited for Alex's response, certain that he would choose either Vela for her military expertise or Kira for her scientific knowledge. These seemed like the most logical choices for a warrior race like humanity. But Alex continued to look at Princess Zara, who had remained silent throughout her sister's presentations. She seemed surprised that anyone was paying attention to her at all. "Princess Zara," Alex said, his voice carrying clearly through the crystalline chamber. "You have said nothing. Do you have no offer to make?" Zara looked up in shock, her dim markings flickering with surprise and confusion. Captain Reed, my sisters have already presented everything of value that our people can offer. I have no great powers, no special abilities that could help your species. I would be a poor choice for such an important role." Her honest response caused several nobles in the audience to nod in agreement. It was well known throughout the empire that Princess Zara was the weakest of the royal children, lacking the impressive abilities that made her sisters famous across the galaxy. Alex studied her carefully for a long moment, taking in details that others seemed to miss. Despite her claims of weakness, there was something in her posture, something in the way she held herself that spoke of hidden strength. Her eyes, though downcast, showed intelligence and compassion that her sister's confident displays somehow lacked. "Emperor Thane," Alex said, turning back to the ruler, "I have made my decision." The entire throne room fell silent, waiting for his choice. The representatives from other species leaned forward in anticipation. This decision would shape the relationship between humans and the most powerful empire in the galaxy. "I choose Princess Zara." The words fell into the silence like stones into still water, creating ripples of shock that spread throughout the chamber. Nobles gasped in disbelief. The other princesses stared at Alex as if he had lost his mind. Even Emperor Thane's glowing patterns flickered with confusion. "Captain Reed," the Emperor said slowly, "perhaps you did not understand the presentations. Princess Zara has no special abilities to offer your people. She cannot command fleets like Vela, or share knowledge like Kira, or provide the telepathic communication that Nora offers. Are you certain this is your choice?" "I am completely certain," Alex replied firmly. "I request Princess Zara to serve as cultural liaison between our peoples, to help establish peaceful relations and mutual understanding between humans and Zephyrians." Princess Vela stepped forward, her expression concerned. "Captain Reed, with respect, you may not understand our sister's limitations. She has never successfully commanded even a single ship. Her scientific knowledge is basic at best. She lacks the telepathic abilities that define our royal bloodline. What could she possibly contribute to such an important alliance?" Princess Kira nodded in agreement. "Perhaps you are tired from the long war and not thinking clearly. Any of us would be better suited for this role. Zara would only embarrass both our peoples," but Alex's expression remained unchanged. If anything, their words seemed to strengthen his resolve. "I understand your concerns," he said, "but my choice remains the same. I would like to speak with Princess Zara privately to discuss the details of this arrangement." Emperor Thane looked from Alex to his youngest daughter, clearly puzzled by this turn of events. Princess Zara herself appeared to be in shock, unable to understand why anyone would choose her over her obviously superior sisters. Very well, the Emperor said finally. If this is truly your wish, then we shall honor it. But I hope you will reconsider once you understand the full implications of your choice. The ceremony concluded with formal agreements and signatures, but the mood in the throne room remained one of confusion and concern. As the crowd dispersed, Alex could hear whispered conversations about the strange human who had made such a foolish decision. Princess Zara approached him hesitantly, her dim markings showing her nervousness and uncertainty. "Captain Reed," she said quietly, "I do not understand why you have chosen me. My sister spoke the truth about my limitations. I will not be able to provide the kind of help that your people need. Are you sure you do not wish to change your mind?" Alex smiled at her, the first genuine smile he had shown since entering the throne room. "Princess Zara, I am more certain of this choice than I have been of anything in my life. But you are right that we need to discuss this arrangement in detail. Would you be willing to meet with me in a more private setting where we can speak freely?" Zara nodded, though her confusion was obvious. "Of course, Captain. The palace gardens are quiet at this time of day. We could speak there without interruption." As they left the throne room together, Alex noticed the pitying looks that courtiers gave Princess Zara and the disappointed expressions directed at him. Everyone seemed convinced that he had made a terrible mistake, but Alex knew something that none of them realized. During the 6 months of war against the Void Swarm, he had been monitoring all Zephyrian communications as part of his command duties. He had access to military reports, tactical analyses, and coordination messages that the general public never saw. And in those classified communications, he had discovered something remarkable about Princess Zara that would change everything. The gardens of the Imperial Palace were a wonder to behold, with crystalline trees that sang in the wind and flowers that glowed with their own inner light. Alex and Princess Zara walked along a path beside a stream of liquid crystal that reflected the light of the 3 suns above. "Captain Reed," Zara said as they found a quiet bench beside the stream, "I must ask you to reconsider your choice. My sisters are correct about my abilities. I would not want your people to suffer because of my inadequacies." Alex sat down beside her, noting how she kept her distance and avoided meeting his eyes. Her entire posture spoke of someone who had spent years being told she was not good enough. "Princess Zara," he said gently, "before I explain my reasons for choosing you, may I ask you a question?" She nodded, her dim markings flickering with nervous energy. "During the war, what did you do while your sisters were fighting and commanding fleets?" Zara's markings dimmed even further. "Nothing of importance, Captain. I worked in the medical facilities, helping to care for the wounded. I assisted with supply coordination and refugee management, basic tasks that anyone could have performed." "And you did this for the entire 6 months of the war?" "Yes," she replied quietly. "My father thought it would be best if I stayed away from the actual fighting. I am not skilled in combat or strategy like my sisters." Alex nodded thoughtfully. "I see. And during this time, did you ever send any communications to the fleet commanders or provide any suggestions about tactical operations?" Zara's markings flickered with what Alex was learning to recognize as embarrassment. "Sometimes I would send reports about supply needs or medical evacuations. Nothing important. Just supply reports and medical evacuations," Alex pressed gently. "Well," Zara hesitated, "sometimes I would notice patterns in the casualty reports or supply requests that might be useful for planning purposes. I would send those observations to whoever might find them helpful." Alex smiled again, realizing that Princess Zara had no idea of the true impact of her contributions to the war effort. "Princess Zara," he said, "I think it is time I told you exactly why I chose you, and why I believe you are the most valuable person in this entire empire." As the 3 suns began to set over the crystal gardens, Alex prepared to reveal the truth that would change Princess Zara's life forever. Princess Zara sat quietly on the crystal bench, her dim bioluminescent markings barely visible in the fading light of the 3 suns. She waited for Captain Alex Reed to explain his puzzling choice, certain that once he understood her true limitations, he would realize his mistake and request one of her more capable sisters instead. Alex turned to face her directly, his expression serious but kind. "Princess Zara, before I explain why I chose you, I need to tell you about something that happened during the war. Something that saved thousands of lives and ultimately led to our victory against the Void Swarm." Zara listened carefully, her confusion growing. She could not imagine how anything she had done could have been significant enough to influence the outcome of such a massive galactic conflict. 3 months into the war, Alex began. My fleet was trapped in the Kepler Nebula. We had been pursuing a void swarm attack group when they led us into an ambush. 50 enemy ships surrounded us and our escape routes were blocked by their energy nets. Zara nodded, remembering that dark period when casualty reports had flooded the medical facilities where she worked. My tactical officers were running battle simulations, trying to find a way out, but every scenario ended in disaster, Alex continued. Then, just as we were preparing for what seemed like a hopeless final battle, we received a communication from Zephyrian Command. Alex paused, watching Zara's face carefully. The message contained detailed information about a hidden asteroid field that our sensors had missed. It included precise coordinates for a safe passage through the field that would allow us to escape the ambush. But more than that, it provided tactical suggestions for using the asteroids as cover while we retreated. That sounds like something Princess Vela would have arranged, Zara said quietly. She is brilliant at fleet tactics. Alex shook his head. That is what I thought too initially. But when I checked the source of the communication, it had not come from Princess Vela or any of the fleet commanders. The message was traced back to the Medical Coordination Center where you were working. Zara's markings flickered with surprise. That is impossible, Captain. I never sent any tactical information. I would not have known how. Let me tell you about another incident, Alex said gently. During the siege of the Andorian colonies, human evacuation ships were having trouble coordinating with Zephyrian rescue vessels. The different communication systems were not compatible, and civilians were being left behind in dangerous areas. Alex stood up and walked to the edge of the crystal stream, his reflection shimmering in the liquid surface. Suddenly, we started receiving what appeared to be supply manifests and medical reports. But embedded within those routine documents were carefully coded instructions for coordination between our species' rescue operations. Many people were sending supply reports during that time. Zara protested weakly, yes, but only one person was sending reports that contained hidden tactical information disguised as medical data. Alex replied, someone who understood both human and Zephyrian communication protocols well enough to create a bridge between them. Someone who was tracking the locations of all civilian populations and knew exactly where rescue efforts needed to be focused. Alex turned back to face her, his eyes serious. Princess Zara, those coded messages saved over 2 million civilians. The coordination protocols you created became the standard for all joint human Zephyrian operations for the rest of the war. Zara stared at him in shock, her bioluminescent patterns beginning to flicker more brightly as her emotions surged. But I never intended those reports to be tactical information. I was just trying to make sure medical supplies reached the right places and that wounded soldiers received proper care. That is exactly my point, Alex said, sitting back down beside her. You were not trying to be a military genius or a tactical mastermind. You were simply paying attention to details that others missed, caring about outcomes that others overlooked, and finding solutions that others could not see. Alex reached into his uniform pocket and pulled out a small data pad. I have been monitoring Zephyrian communications throughout the war as part of my command duties. May I show you something? Zara nodded, still too stunned to speak. Alex activated the data pad and holographic displays appeared in the air above them. The displays showed communication logs, tactical reports, and battle analyses from the entire 6-month conflict. Every major human victory in this war can be traced back to information that originated from your Medical Coordination Center, Alex explained, highlighting different entries in the data: the successful defense of the mining colonies, the evacuation of the research stations, the final assault on the Void Swarm mothership. All of these operations succeeded because of tactical insights that you provided. The holographic displays showed dozens of examples. Supply reports that contained hidden intelligence about enemy movements, medical evacuation schedules that revealed optimal timing for military strikes, casualty analyses that identified weaknesses in Void Swarm attack patterns. But how is that possible? Zara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I have no military training. I do not understand strategy or tactics. Alex smiled and gestured toward the data displays. Princess Zara, you have something far more valuable than military training. You have perfect strategic intuition combined with genuine care for all living beings. You see patterns that others miss because you are not focused on glory or recognition. You are focused on protecting lives and solving problems. He pointed to a specific communication log. Look at this message you sent about medical supply shortages on the frontier worlds. Buried within the supply request was information about civilian population movements that revealed a void swarm flanking maneuver, 3 days before our intelligence services detected it. Zara studied the display, beginning to recognize her own writing. I was just concerned that the medical facilities might be overwhelmed if the fighting moved to those areas. Exactly, Alex said. But your concern led you to analyze population patterns, supply chain logistics, and emergency response capabilities in a way that revealed enemy intentions. Your mind naturally thinks in terms of systems and connections that military planners often miss. Alex brought up another display, this one showing communication patterns between different Zephyrian commanders. Look at this network analysis. During the war, tactical information flowed through your medical coordination center like water through a hub. Commanders would send you medical requests and supply needs, and somehow those requests would be redirected to exactly the right places, with exactly the right timing. The display showed Zara's communication center at the middle of a vast web of information exchange, with lines connecting to every major military operation in the war. Your sisters thought they were making their own tactical decisions, Alex explained, but the foundational information for those decisions was coming from your analyses and observations. You were coordinating the entire war effort without anyone realizing it, including yourself. Zara stared at the displays in amazement. She had never thought of her work as anything more than basic administrative tasks. But the data showed a pattern of influence that spanned the entire galactic conflict. There is something else, Alex said, bringing up a new set of displays. Do you remember the final battle at the Void Swarm mothership? Zara nodded. That had been the most terrifying day of the war, when casualty reports had flooded in faster than the medical facilities could process them. My ship was severely damaged during the initial assault, Alex continued. Our navigation systems were failing, and we were drifting toward the mothership's main weapon array. We had perhaps 10 minutes before we would be destroyed. The holographic display showed the tactical situation during that critical moment. Human and Zephyrian ships scattered across space, many damaged and struggling to maintain formation. Then we received what appeared to be a routine medical evacuation request, Alex said. But the coordinates in that request led us to a damaged Zephyrian vessel that had working navigation equipment. The timing of the message allowed us to dock with that ship and repair our systems just in time to rejoin the final assault. Alex looked directly at Zara. You saved my life, Princess Zara. You saved my entire crew. And by getting us back into the battle, you helped ensure that the final assault succeeded. Zara's bioluminescent markings were now glowing brighter than Alex had ever seen them, pulsing with emotions she was struggling to process. But why did no one else notice these patterns? She asked. Alex sighed and gestured toward the palace. Because your sisters and the other commanders were focused on their own areas of expertise. Princess Vela saw fleet movements, Princess Kira saw technological solutions. Princess Nora saw communication networks, but none of them saw the complete picture the way you did. He stood up and walked a few steps away, looking up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. There is another reason why no one noticed, and it explains why your bioluminescent markings have been dim for so long. Zara followed his gaze upward. What do you mean? During the war, the medical facilities where you worked were running far beyond their normal capacity, Alex explained. The power systems were overloaded, the life support equipment was failing, and thousands of wounded soldiers were depending on those systems to survive. Alex turned back to her. According to the engineering reports I reviewed, someone was channeling their own bioelectric energy into the medical facility power grids to keep the systems running. The energy drain would have been enormous, enough to significantly dim their natural luminescence. Zara's markings flickered as she realized what he was suggesting. The medical facilities were critical. If the power had failed, many wounded soldiers would have died. Someone had to maintain the systems. Someone did maintain them, Alex said quietly. You did, Princess Zara. For 6 months, you kept those facilities running by channeling your own life energy into their power systems. That is why your markings have been dim. That is why others thought you were weak. You were literally giving your strength to save others. The implications of his words hit Zara like a physical blow. She had never thought of her work in the medical facilities as anything heroic. She had simply done what needed to be done to keep people alive. Your sisters gained fame and recognition for their contributions to the war effort, Alex continued, but your contributions were hidden, anonymous and selfless. You coordinated the entire war from the shadows while simultaneously keeping thousands of wounded soldiers alive with your own energy. Alex sat back down beside her, his expression filled with respect and admiration. Princess Zara, you are not the weakest member of your family. You are the strongest. You have been carrying the weight of this entire war on your shoulders and no one even knew it. Zara felt tears beginning to form in her eyes, something that rarely happened for Zephyrians. But why are you telling me this? Why did you choose me instead of my sisters? Alex smiled and his expression became serious and determined. Because humanity's greatest strength is not our military power or our technology. Our greatest strength is our ability to recognize true leadership and true worth, even when others cannot see it. He gestured toward the palace where lights were beginning to appear in the windows. Your sisters are impressive, but they are focused on their own areas of expertise. They think in terms of ships and weapons and scientific formulas, but you think in terms of people and systems and connections. Alex stood up and extended his hand to help Zara to her feet. The galaxy does not need another military commander or another scientist. The galaxy needs someone who can bring different species together. Someone who can see the big picture and find solutions that others miss. Zara took his hand and stood, her bioluminescent markings now glowing brighter than they had in months. But what kind of alliance are you proposing? What would my role be? Alex's expression became excited and hopeful. Princess Zara, I am not proposing that you serve as a cultural liaison in the traditional sense. I am proposing that you help humanity establish a new kind of galactic confederation, one based on cooperation and mutual support rather than military dominance. He gestured toward the stars above them. Imagine a network of civilizations that share information and resources the way you coordinated our war effort. Imagine species working together to solve problems and protect each other, guided by someone who understands how to make complex systems work for the benefit of everyone involved. Zara's mind began to race as she considered the possibilities. A confederation where each species contributes their strengths while supporting others' weaknesses. Exactly, Alex said. And at the center of that confederation, we need someone who thinks like you do. Someone who sees patterns and connections. Someone who cares more about outcomes than recognition. Someone who has already proven they can coordinate the efforts of multiple species in the most challenging circumstances imaginable. As they walked back toward the palace, Zara felt her bioluminescent markings growing brighter with each step. The dimness that had plagued her for months was fading as her natural energy returned. Captain Reed, she said, I accept your proposal, but I have one condition. Alex looked at her with curiosity. What condition? Zara's markings pulsed with determination. I want my sisters to be part of this confederation as well, not as subordinates but as partners. Princess Vela's military expertise, Princess Kira's scientific knowledge, Princess Nora's communication abilities, all of these will be valuable in building the kind of cooperative network you are describing. Alex grinned, recognizing the wisdom in her suggestion. Princess Zara, that is exactly the kind of thinking that convinced me you were the right choice for this role. You see the value in others even when they cannot see the value in you. As they entered the palace, servants and nobles stopped to stare at Princess Zara. Her bioluminescent markings were now glowing with the full radiance of a healthy, confident Zephyrian royal. The transformation was so dramatic that many did not recognize her at first. Emperor Thane appeared in the corridor, drawn by the commotion. When he saw his youngest daughter glowing with vibrant energy, his own markings flared with surprise and joy. Zara, my dear daughter, what has happened? You look more radiant than you have in years. Zara smiled at her father, her confidence growing with each moment. Father, Captain Reed has helped me understand some things about myself and about the war. I believe we have much to discuss about the future of our empire and its relationship with humanity. Over the following hours, Alex and Zara presented their proposal to the Emperor and the other princesses. They outlined a plan for a galactic confederation that would pool the strengths of multiple species while providing mutual support and protection. Princess Vela was initially skeptical. This is a dramatic departure from traditional military alliances. How would command structures work? How would we maintain security? But as Alex and Zara explained their vision, showing how Zara had successfully coordinated multi-species efforts during the war, even Vela began to see the potential. Princess Kira was fascinated by the technological implications. A network that shares scientific knowledge across species barriers could accelerate discovery and innovation. Beyond anything we have seen before, Princess. Nora's telepathic abilities would be crucial for maintaining communication across the vast distances of space that the Confederation would span. By the end of the night, all 7 princesses had agreed to participate in the new Confederation, each contributing their unique abilities to the common cause. Emperor Thane looked at his youngest daughter with pride and amazement. Zara, for years I worried that you had no special role to play in our empire's future. I see now that I was completely wrong. You do not have a special role to play. You have the most important role of all. As the 3 suns rose over the Crystal City the next morning, the foundation was laid for a new kind of galactic civilization. At its center stood Princess Zara, no longer the weakest member of the royal family, but recognized as its most valuable leader. The Confederation would grow to include dozens of species, all working together under the guidance of someone who understood that true strength comes not from individual power, but from the ability to help others discover and use their own gifts. And it all began because one human soldier had the wisdom to look beyond the obvious and recognize the hidden value in someone whom others had dismissed as weak. In the years that followed, the Zephyrian Human Confederation would become a model for peaceful cooperation across the galaxy, proving that the greatest victories come not from conquest, but from the courage to see worth where others see weakness.